Good morning, afternoon, evening, YouTubers. This is Matt here at More Projects, and today I'm helping a buddy out working on a CRX. And so what we're going to do is a valve adjustment. So if you have a D series, any of the D series from 88 to 2000, this will be the same for all of those. It's a real quick and easy job that I feel like anybody can do. One note, make sure you do it first thing in the morning or if the car's been sitting and it's completely cold. So this is first thing in the morning for us, and let's get this knocked out. Okay, so here is the motor. This is a D16 A6. This is in an SI CRX. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have to take off this valve cover and lift it up to take off the wheel so that we can get access to turning the crank. And also make sure to pull your emergency brake up. All right, so this is a 19 millimeter. So what we're going to do is while the car's on the ground, we're going to go ahead and break loose all the lug nuts. Put your jack stand. So we're going to put the jack stand right here where it's got a metal edge that hangs down. This is where you're supposed to support it at. All right, so now we can take off this wheel. All right, once you remove the wheel, slide it under the car just in case this thing falls. So we're going to pop this out, and through this hole you can see our crank pulley bolt. On these D series motors, they are a 17 millimeter. We're going to leave that right there. All right, so we need to take the spark plug wires out, and if you don't have them, together nice and neatly already, what you can do is take you a piece of masking tape, and these cylinders on this side, this would be number 1, 2, 3, and 4. You just take it and just wrap you a piece and label it number 1, number 2, and so forth all the way down. But since I know what these are going to be, since they're still together, we're only going to just do this one. This is just for reference if this is your first time doing it. You can pull them all up and then lay them off to the side just like that. Then we're going to have to undo our breather hose just like that. We're going to want to undo any cables that are held to the valve cover. So we're going to undo that one and that, just to give us the little extra room. We have these 4 10 millimeter nuts right here that have to come off. 4, and then you got to take off this front one. All right, and then you can move your ground strap out of the way. Before I take this off, we're going to go ahead and take our 4 spark plugs out. You're going to be using a 5/8 spark plug socket. Now with all this disconnected, we should be ready to pick up straight on here. These little valve cover seals will kind of be holding it into place. So just be ready, because these will pop off when you pop this up. So we tapped on this with a hammer, a rubber hammer on each side to get this broke loose. And you should be able to pick straight up on it. And look at there. So next, we're gonna have to remove this timing belt cover so we can see our timing gear. And it's just 2 10 millimeter bolts holding it into place. All right, so we have the timing cover off, and I noticed that the old gasket, they must have used some RTV or Honda Bond to hold this on. You can see where it's got a layer all the way around spreading out from both sides, and these seals have to come off. And it looks like they might have put Honda Bond on just about everything, or RTV. So you have to make sure you get all this off, and it has to be clean before you can finish this job. Like, you can see how this seal, I mean, look at that. So to get this off, this old seal, I'm going to use like a wire wheel, but you're going to want to be real gentle with it. You don't want to give it any low spots. it'd be more recommended to use a piece of Scotch-Brite, but I don't have any Scotch-Brite with me. So we're just gonna kind of just go right around here and clean that surface off. And I did put some paper towels down in here just so that nothing falls down in the cylinder. All right guys, so I got all the gasket cleaned off. The next thing we want to do is get this thing to top dead center. If you look right here, this says up on here. It's probably going to be hard to see, but it does say up. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down here to our crank and we're going to turn it counterclockwise like you're taking the bolt off. And I'm going to turn it counterclockwise until the up is all the way at the top, just like that. See how up is now up here. You'll also notice that these two lines, they should be flush with the top of the head. So that'll be top dead center. So that means we can start working on number 1. So if you'll look, this is the lobe. This is actually what pushes on this rocker arm and pushes it up. Notice that it's not at the high point where it's pushing on this, so that means that these are at rest. So what we're doing is trying to get these valves at rest when the motor is cold, so now we can make an adjustment. And this is where we're going to be adjusting. So what we're going to need is a 10mm and a flathead screwdriver. All right guys, so what we're doing is we're checking to see what the old tolerance is on these. The customer is complaining that it has a lot of valve train noise. So that means that they're more than likely these are loose. He doesn't know if these ever had a valve adjustment done. So it's supposed to be on the exhaust side. And I'm over here, I'm just going to use a 12 thousandths and it slides right in on both of these. So that shows you that's already loose. I'm going to put a 16. 16 is snug on this one and a 14 is snug on this one. But it's supposed to be 9. So these are way too loose. So once we tighten this up, that should help the valve train noise. So what you're going to want to do is break the nut loose on the top. I'm going to go ahead and break both of them loose. Okay, so that one right here, see how we're able to turn this? You want to hold that nut so that you can turn this in, and then you'll be able to tighten it when you hold this. So what we're going to do is put our feeler gauge under here first. When I tighten this, I'm wanting to get, we're just a slight drag. So right now I'm feeling a slight drag, and then that's too much. See, that's stuck. So I'm going to back it off just a little bit until I get that nice slight drag feeling where I can take it out just like that. So I'm going to loosen it just a hair, is hold the screw and tighten the nut just like that. So as long as a 10 thousandths does not fit, then we're okay. So here's our 10 and we can't fit a 10 under there. So that's good, guys. So we had to break out the big screwdriver to break this one loose. This one has probably never been broke loose before. So I actually cracked it open loose to the left, and now we're able to tighten it back up. So I got my feeler gauge up under here, and we're just gonna get it to right where we can't, and then back it off. So see, I can take that out, and that'll fit, and it's kind of hard to tell because it's all about the feel, but this has just a slight drag on it. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna hold this right where it's at. We're gonna tighten that up. And then we're gonna check with our other gauge, our 10, and make sure it doesn't fit, and it doesn't. So those two are good. This is only set to 10 foot-pounds, so that's really not a lot. I would definitely recommend using the box end so that you don't slip and round it off. Fit. Now we can move to our intake side. Now our intake side is going to be 7 and our exhaust is 9. Same deal. So I'm going to actually break this loose with my ratchet, just like that. All right, so I cracked, and I'm going to try to make sure that the flathead turns. So I'm going to take it and loosen it just a little bit. Okay, so now we got it where we're able to move it. So now let's get our feeler gauge and we're gonna put it under here until this one gets snug. Okay, so you're gonna kind of want to just use this to kind of just keep it going until you can feel that little bit of drag. So here's where I'm getting some drag right there, and then I can't pull it out, so I'll back it off just a hair, and that should be good. So now we'll be able to hold it and tighten this one up. I'm gonna hold the screwdriver and tighten the 10, and then we're gonna pull it out, and it should have just a little bit of a drag, so I can feel it's dragging. The size that's too big, so we're gonna use our 8/1000ths, which should be out of tolerance, and it shouldn't go. And I can't put that in there, so we're good. And we're gonna do the same thing to this one as well, and then I'll show you what to do for the rest ones and which ones to go to. All right, so we just finished cylinder number 1, so we need to go to the next one. But how would you know? You go off your firing order. On all these D series, the firing order is 1, 3, 4, 2. So the next one we're gonna go to is number 3. So to go to number 3, we need it now to be at top dead center where the piston's all the way up and these valves are at rest. Because right now, this valve is not at rest, but this one is. So we're gonna turn our crank again. So if you look at our crank, here's our up. We're gonna turn it counterclockwise, 90 degrees. So we're wanting this up to be, we're wanting the up to now be right over here, and we want it facing to the left, to the front of the engine. So that'll be top dead center for number 3. So now we can do the exact same process we did on this one on number 3. So once again, these are at rest, so you see how it's got some play? So we're gonna check our tolerance first before we make an adjustment. So I'm going to grab a 10, because that should be out of spec, and sure enough, it's loose as a goose. So that one's already out of spec, and so is that one. Let's just try the 10 on the intake side and just see what we got. So I'm gonna kind of bend this filler gauge where we can get down in here, and guess what? The 10 fits on this one as well, and this one's supposed to be no bigger than 8, or no bigger than 7. So that's no good, guys. So these definitely are way too loose. So I'm gonna assume the same on all of these, so we're just gonna continue on. So let's break these loose. One, 2, 3, and 4. So I got all these broke loose. Now I'm going to take the screwdriver and make sure that these are all broke loose as well. And these actually turn a lot easier than that first one. Perfect. All right, so we're going to do the exact same method that we already did. So on the exhaust side, we're just going to start with that, and we're going to set it to 8. So I'm going to stick my filler gauge underneath here. I'm going to turn the screw until I get, I'm just going to use it like this as I'm turning until I can feel a drag. So I've already had to turn this 90 degrees, a quarter turn. And now I got my drag where it's tight. I'm gonna back it off just a hair. And that's got a nice little bit of a drag right there. So we're gonna tighten that down with our 10 millimeter. Okay, all right, so now we got that one in. We'll double check with our no-go gauge, which is our 10, and we'll make sure that that doesn't fit, and I can't get that in there, so we're good. So let's do the rest, and I will move on to the next cylinder. All right guys, so we just finished cylinder number 3. So we're gonna move to cylinder number 4. We're gonna move this where the up is in the down position. So turn it counterclockwise until it's down just like that. And that will be number 4. So we're gonna do the exact same process. I'm not even gonna do the video because you already saw me do number 1 and number 3, but we're gonna do the same to number 4 and then to number 2. We're gonna turn this another 90 degrees to do number 2. And then I'm gonna show you reinstalling the valve cover gasket and putting this back on and cranking it up. All right guys, so we've already adjusted everything. We've got these within spec, made sure that the like the 10,000 doesn't fit on this side and the 8,000 doesn't fit here. I've already done re-verified, turned it all over. Now we're ready to clean our seals, clean all of our area. We're gonna put some carburetor cleaner on this rag, wipe everything down. All right, so we have a Felpro gasket set for this. What we're gonna do is we're gonna open it. Look at that pretty painted valve cover. He did a good job. Got that wrinkled black, making it look back factory. All right, so these tube seals, the way they need to go in is fit them in where this slides into here, just like that. Because if you try to put them on the other way, they won't fit in. So you can push these directly on and they just have a nice tight fit. And then we're gonna put these on when we go to put the rest of it on. So we're gonna take our gasket and we're gonna slide this, and it should only go on one way. So you're gonna push that all the way in there. And it's got a couple little notches right about here that should hold it into place. You can get some gray RTV or you can get some Honda Bond. Honda Bond is what they use from the factory to assemble the engines. So that's what we're gonna use as well. So use your little cap, pop a hole in it, just like that. And you're just gonna wanna place it, just a little dab, right on these corners, right here. And that's all you want to place it. It's just right there. And you're going to want to let it sit for 1 minute to get tacky before we put it on. So it's been about a minute. So we're going to flip this over. We'll slide this directly on and center it up just like that. Now you're going to take your seals, put your 2 big ones on the front and your 2 small ones go to the back. Okay. Now these are very easy to over tighten, and these don't have to be super tight, so don't go crazy tightening these things. You just want it to be snug. So kind of just choke up on your wrench and then work from one side to the other. Just until you feel it get snug. Just like that. Back to the front. Okay, and then one more. Okay, and that's about as tight as you want to get it. It's just snug. Okay, I'm going to take this one back off because this is where our ground strap went. Okay, there's that. Okay. And then we're going to swap over our brackets that hold this on from their other piece. And before I forget, don't forget to take off your ratchet that was down on your crank pulley. That'll be a bad idea whenever you go to crank it. Finished putting the wheel on, the valve cover's done. I torqued these back to 80 foot-pounds, so this is moment of truth. After the valve job is done, let's see how she sounds. I think it sounds pretty good. It's a lot quieter. I know when he goes to take it for a test drive, it's probably going to drive a whole lot smoother as well and probably get better gas mileage.